Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bhakti Fundamentals. Last night, we came across a poignant verse in a prayer book written by one of the great ācāryas in our Bhakti tradition. In it, he humbly pleads, just once, please consider, where will you go after this lifetime is over? It's a sobering question. And while it's tempting to postpone thinking about such things until old age for our bodies, the reality is no one knows when their time in their current body will be up. And reflecting on this question now can inspire us to take meaningful steps on our spiritual journey while we still have the opportunity. In fact, it can affect the trajectory of not just this lifetime, but our next destination. So where do we go after this lifetime ends? Fortunately, we don't have to speculate. The Supreme Lord, Krishna, answers this question directly in the Bhagavad-gītā. In a nutshell, we go exactly where our consciousness points at the moment we leave our body. Material consciousness at the time of death for our bodies leads us to a material destination. Spiritual consciousness leads us to a spiritual one. In chapter 8, verse 6 of the Gita, Krishna says, whatever state of being one remembers when one quits one's body, O son of Kunti, that state one will attain without fail. Now first, let us note the language used in this verse, when one quits one's body. In Bhakti Yoga, we refer to death as leaving our bodies, and this is because we cannot actually die. Even if we wanted to, we could not die. We are the spirit soul, and spirit is eternal. The body is temporary, made of matter, and it will eventually fail. But the soul, what we really are, is eternal. So in this verse, death is referred to as quitting our bodies. Death is simply the moment we, the individual spirit souls, leave our bodies behind. And Krishna here explains that whatever we remember at the time of death, that will determine where we go next. If we are thinking of the career we never had, or the house and things we don't wish to leave behind, or all the people in our lives who hurt us or whom we wish we had reconciled with, these thoughts will bring us back to the material world because these things and people are all in the material world, and our corresponding desires will bring us back. And why don't we want to come back to this material world? Because it's a place of suffering. In this same chapter of the Bhagavad-gītā, Krishna describes the material world with two striking words, dukhalayam ashashvatam, indicating that it is a temporary place full of miseries. We, the individual spirit souls, are eternal by nature. And yet in this world, we are forced, via the choices we've made, to undergo the repeated sufferings of birth, disease, old age, and death for our material bodies. But Krishna, the Supreme, doesn't want this for us. Out of his compassion, he reveals an alternative consciousness for us at the time of death for our bodies, a way to escape the cycle of birth and death and reconnect with our original, eternal, blissful, spiritual nature. That alternative is spiritual consciousness. In the 5th verse of chapter 8 of the Gita, Krishna delivers this powerful promise. Whoever at the end of their life quits their body remembering me alone, Krishna is referring to himself, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Here, Krishna suggests that we think of him in the final moments of our time in this body. We don't have to think of anyone or anything else because Krishna is taking care of everything and everyone else, perfectly reciprocating with everyone according to their desires. So we can have full faith in his words here, that we need only think of him at the time of death. He will take care of the rest. If we think of him, we will go to Krishna. He declares as much in this verse. He will take direct control of our spiritual destination. We need only remember him at that critical time. Well, this sounds easy, right? You may be thinking, okay, great. I'll go on with my life, and I'll think of Krishna at the time of death and be all set. While in theory you could do this, it's not the best plan. If your body has ever been really sick, you know that it's difficult to focus during that sickness. At the time of death, when our body is failing completely and our mind is totally reeling from anxiety and from all of the bodily suffering we are going through, we will naturally default to what we have thought of or acted upon our whole lives. We won't remember Krishna at that time unless we have trained ourselves to think of him throughout our lives. And thus, spiritual consciousness is not meant to just be cultivated at the time of death, but also throughout our lives. The goal of Bhakti Yoga is to live a life of remembrance of the Supreme, so that when the final moment of this body arrives, we do what comes naturally to us. We think of him. On this note, in his purport or explanation to the 5th verse of chapter 8 of the Gita, which we looked at, Srila Prabhupada writes, "Remembrance of Krishna is not possible for the impure soul who has not practiced Krishna consciousness in devotional service. Therefore, one should practice Krishna consciousness from the very beginning of life. If one wants to achieve success at the end of his life, the process of remembering Krishna is essential. Therefore, one should constantly, incessantly chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare." And he reiterates the same point again in his purport to the next verse, wherein he writes, "If in one's present life one lives in the mode of goodness and always thinks of Krishna, it is possible for one to remember Krishna at the end of one's life. That will help one be transferred to the transcendental nature of Krishna. If one is transcendentally absorbed in Krishna's service, then one's next body will be transcendental, spiritual, not material. Therefore, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the best process for successfully changing one's state of being at the end of one's life." Note the emphasis Srila Prabhupada gives to the Maha Mantra in the above purports. In chapter 8 of the Gita, which covers the science and art of leaving our bodies in spiritual consciousness, Srila Prabhupada writes out the Maha Mantra no less than 7 times, to reiterate how important the daily chanting of the Maha Mantra is for our remembering Krishna at the time of death for our bodies. What we cultivate thinking of in life is what we will cultivate thinking about at the time when we must leave our bodies. That's why Krishna encourages us to live a life of spiritual consciousness now. Our final moment in this body is shaped by all the moments that come before it. To deepen this point, Krishna offers an analogy in chapter 15 of the Bhagavad-gītā. Krishna says, "The living entities in the material world carry their different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus they take one kind of body and again quit it to take another. Just as air carries subtle scents, whether pleasant or foul, our consciousness carries our desires and impressions from one body to the next. This verse highlights the incredible significance of our daily consciousness. Our daily consciousness affects our consciousness at the time of death, and our consciousness at the time of death determines our next destination. We hear in the purport to this verse from chapter 15, "At the time of death, the consciousness one has created will carry one on to the next type of body." This means that every day counts. Spiritual life isn't just for those in old age for the body, it's for everyone to start practicing now, so that we can remember the Supreme Person, Krishna, throughout our lives and at the critical moment at the end of this life. So that's all we have for today on this topic of where will we go after this lifetime is over. Please let us know if you have any questions for us that we can answer in upcoming sessions. In the meantime, thank you for listening today, and we'll see you next time on Bhakti Fundamentals.